When it comes to military history, I think I spend too much time pondering what it was like for those guys, the top brass, the senior commanders, and perhaps not enough time thinking about what it was like for the men actually doing the fighting on the front line. So I've come to the world's best collection of arms and armour, the Royal Armouries in Leeds. I'm going to get hands-on with those weapons used way back in the struggle against the Vikings, but also more recently, like Agincourt, Waterloo, and the Somme. I'm going to discover how those weapons decided the course of a battle and defined the way in which it was fought. How hard or easy were they to operate?
Yay, you're an archer, let's go.
And what was it like to use them and face them if you're on the front line? I'm starting over 1,000 years ago in the early medieval period. Our base is the Royal Armouries tiltyard, but there are no knights in shining armour jousting here today. Instead, it's just me and the Armouries' top medieval coach, Andy Deane. Andy, how are you doing?
Good to see you, you well?
Very good to see you, man. And today we're talking about this, aren't we? I mean, what is it with medieval warfare? When I think about it, I know there's all sorts of weapons and weapon systems, but the sword, it is like an icon of the period.
I think partly because of its cost. I mean, getting the metal together and then heating it and doing all the various processes to make an extraordinarily sharp weapon, it takes a lot of time and energy to make it, and then even more time and energy to practice to become efficient. So it's only the top echelons of society are ever going to be able to afford a weapon of such beauty and deadliness. I would only expect the sort of top 5–10% of the fighting force would have a sword of real class. The rest would have axes, bastardized farming utensils, pointy sticks.
Can I pick it up?
Of course you may.
Look,
it is extraordinarily sharp.
Oh, is it?
And this one, as you can see, the pattern welding in it is quite extraordinary. So 8th, 9th century Saxon sword, obviously a beautiful replica and razor sharp.
Is it just because they look good, or are they? Is it a very versatile weapon as well? Because you've got a stab, a slash, and then a useful little...
Yeah, I think it's a versatile weapon in the sense that, exactly, you've got two cutting edges. It's heavy in the blade, so it's that concussive blow. It comes down onto your collarbone or it breaks bones underneath. And the slicing and the slashing that goes with a sword that is beautifully treated and annealed and such like means that it cuts through not only skin and bone, it sort of cuts through to the fresh air the other side, if you don't have protection on. That's why protection was so important, but protection was also fairly exclusive as well. And so an entire army set Hastings, not everyone would have the mail shirt you'd believe if you saw the Bayeux Tapestry.
The Bayeux Tapestry captures a vivid scene of the brutal Battle of Hastings in 1066. Most of the fighters are carrying spears or bows, but some elite warriors are armed with swords, on foot and horseback, and they're inflicting terrible injuries. Going back up to 500 years before Hastings, I recently came up close with actual early medieval weapons from the 5th and 6th century Anglo-Saxon cemetery discovered at the HS2 excavations near Wendover. Lots of spears of every size emerged from the ground, and a single sword found buried with an elite male. It was almost certainly pattern welded, made of bars of folded iron beaten together, just like the replica at the Royal Armouries. So, as I'm standing here talking to you, I'm embarrassed to admit my arms get a bit tired.
It's heavy. It's a pig. But if you train with it all your life, it's like anything in life. It becomes an extension of you.
I've been wielding my phone, not wielding a sword. That's the problem.
But it's that single-handedness. So I mean, the hammer effect is intensified in this early medieval sword compared with later swords where the pommel is further down. You've got the possibility of using a second hand and then it becomes much more wieldy. But this, as I say, with the chopping, slashing attacks, you basically got to keep the sword moving. Doing that is going to be hard work, but if you can wheel it and move it around your shield.
The stories about passing it from father to son, all that kind of stuff, presumably this was an heirloom and a very special object.
I mean, it will forever be a sword if you keep it well. And what you find is swords that have been used, you find that there's a little sort of curve here and then another little curve here, minute, but it means that people have been using the sword time and time and again, attacking with that part of the blade and defending the opponent with this part of the blade. So as the blade gets older, it sort of becomes almost like an hourglass. So yeah, keep sharpening it, keep looking after it, keep oiling it, and pass it on to your son or daughter.
So can you show me some basic drills? I'm dying to have a go.
Yes, is the answer. We'll set you up, we'll swing the sword around, make sure you're nice and safe, and then we'll put something for you to hit.
The Anglo-Saxon period was frequently a time of conflict, with wars between rival kingdoms and the threat from Viking invasions. The art of the time often shows spears and axes, but swords were at the heart of the fighting too. Right, what's first? What do I need?
One sword for the use of.
Thank you.
And one shield.
Do you know, shields sound kind of technical, don't they? But that is just a big old piece of wood.
Well, often it was laminated, then sort of covered in rawhide and such like. But yeah, intensity, it's basically a mobile wall, isn't it? And the heavier you make it, the more you feel defended. But of course, that limits its use.
But yeah, my arm, you can already feel that, can't you? Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
Right, so obviously the sword, if you're in a tight press, so if I'm here and you've got somebody there, all you can really do is...
Bit of stabbing like that.
Bit of
Stabbing like that.
And come underneath.
Under.
Yeah. Do everything you can as well.
Nasty.
But you'd bring the shield up to protect your head when you did that. But now the shield war is over.
Okay.
Exploded open, and now you've got to use the shield to defend everything on your left-hand side while using that effectively. Yeah. Effectively means a fighting distance. So if I'm here, your sword's no good other than using pommel.
Okay.
Yeah, smash, or even the cross, just smash, get me away.
Yeah.
Once I've been thrown off by, now, the areas you'd go for, imagine I've got the helmet on, there's still areas that are unprotected. The neck, inside the arm, back of the hamstrings is an excellent one. So working around. So if you were going to, don't cut me in pieces, but if you were going to come down, just show me how you come down. Good. Now, if I was really good, I'd move my leg at the same time. So you've got a lot of energy. So step forward.
Oh, God, okay.
There, perfect.
Yeah.
Then step back, you draw the cut back, and if you're going to do the same with the leg, step forward, step, get that leg, and now draw back. It's when you cut with the sword, it's not in. Well, that breaks the bones. Yeah. It's either sliding it forward or sliding it back that cuts the meat.
That's nasty.
Yeah. And once you've done that, so do that again, cut me in the hamstring, I've gone down, you pull back, go through there, out the other side, move on. Because anything more than 2 or 3 moves, and it's not me who kills you, it's my mate to the left or the right or the bloke who's got behind you. So you can't remain static for very long because you become a target, literally a tree to be chopped down. So that movement is everything. And then, of course, you've only got about 2 or 3 minutes of energy before you're utterly broken. So you need to then find, if you can.
Yeah.
Find somebody else, find help, find the flag fluttering in the breeze that says that that's your household and you need to get back over there, because numbers are your safety rather than really weapons. So, shall we have a go with the sharp one?
Is that what, that's blunt, that one?
Well, yeah, I didn't want you to kill me.
Okay.
So Dan, we've got our test cutting mat here. If you're going to cut through this way, make sure that your body is either central or even slightly to the right. 60-degree cut, try and hit halfway down the blade, slice it through. So it comes through here. If you're going to do the same, remember, lead with the knuckles, 60-degree angle, up, hold on to the blade. We'll need it later.
Spinning off.
Right, I'll get the sharp one and we'll have a go.
Right, Andy, this is the sharp edge here. That is sharp. Woo! You can shave with that. So that way, yeah?
Yeah, so wider stance, yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Don't think about cutting into it. Think about going all the way through it. There you go, come across the other side. There you go.
Woo!
Easy, isn't it?
You'd have to do, that sword does all the work, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it scares me even this day, after 40 years of playing swords. Doesn't take much for it to go wrong, does it?
That's ridiculous. It just felt like I was just floating, and it just completely cut it off. It felt effortless.
I mean, you can see it's perfect angle, and it's like a scalpel gone all the way through. And this is the same thickness as an arm, and it's the same resistance as an arm.
Is that realistic?
Yeah.
So an arm would be off like that?
Yeah. Having said that,
terrifying.
if it hit this, then you got some protection.
Yeah.
But without it, it's just this bit.
But you can see why, once the shield wall breaks, there's a rout. A knight with a sword would be a terminator to all the lightly armoured people who made up the majority of the battlefield.
Find a bush to hide behind or run faster than their horse, because you're going to die.
And it just felt like a sweep. You almost didn't notice when you were going through.
No, exactly. If you keep the movement smooth and you think about going through rather than into, that's what happens to limbs.
Oh, that is properly terrifying. You can see why, for generations, this was king of the battlefield. It's so effective.
And it's a sign that you are at the top of your game. If you can afford this and you wield it with that sort of efficiency, you are a man of extraordinary power, both on the battlefield and in society.
It's so instructive getting hands-on with a weapon. It's an insight into the skill required and the dangers faced by ordinary fighters on the front line of history. Thanks for watching this video on the History Hit YouTube channel. You can subscribe right here to make sure you don't miss any of our great films that are coming out. Or if you are a true history fan, check out our special dedicated history channel, historyhit.tv. You're going to love it.